Good morning. Thank you for joining me today. This is going to be my fourth attempt at doing this live stream. You know, I've had a couple of issues and a couple of them. I'm going to try to work through them. I think I've got everything set up kind of perfectly. We're going to find out as this episode goes on. Just going to do a quick opening here just to see if those people that want to show up can show up. You know, I'm just a regular guy. I work 5 days a week, have a regular job. You know, I work full time and I work in my yard. And, you know, my whole process of everything in my yard has just been kind of something I've always wanted to do. And I finally did it a couple of years ago. And I just want to kind of go over it with everybody who's interested in, you know, they're doing their lawn, making their lawn look good, all that sort of stuff. There's tons of YouTube channels out there you can go to and watch. And they have lots of great information. And they sell a lot of products. So, you know, if you want to, you know, buy their products and all that sort of stuff, that's great. I welcome you to do that. I'm just showing you a little different approach to how I go about things. I have a lot of videos on my channel. I have my McLane greenskeeper. I have putting green, and I have short fairway grass. I have a brand new opening here. Hope you like it. A couple of people have been asking me, you know, hey, where do you live? You know, what part of the state are you in and all that. So this is me. I live in the South Sound of Washington. So I was doing some video and you know, I do the drone video and I've never really thought about going way up over the treetops and looking out to where I live. So I did it one day and I was like, oh, hey, that's pretty nice. I didn't know you had this kind of view from above the trees. You know, I live right by a state park. I border it and, you know, I have the water right here just to the west of me. And then to the direct south of me is Mount Rainier. You know, I don't see it on a regular basis where I live because, you know, we got lots of trees out here, but, you know, this is where I live, King County, Washington. You know, basically like Tacoma area. So I have a lot of things I want to talk about today. I'm going to get started here in just a quick second. I didn't even know if I was really going to get a video put together this week because I didn't even really start on it till late yesterday. And I had a couple of family things going on. We had a big pizza party last night. My son's got a, you know, pizza oven. He brought it over. Everybody came over. It was my birthday last week. So we kind of celebrated. And I said, hey, you know, that pizza party thing sounds great. Let's do that again. So we did that yesterday. Everybody came over and we made pizzas, cooked them in the oven out in the backyard. It's been really nice here lately. Finally, we're getting the great weather. So I wasn't sure if I was going to get some stuff together, but I did. So I am going to get started here. So this is kind of the final of getting my yard together. You know, I've done a lot of projects this year. I worked on my son Justin's yard. I worked on my neighbor Wilson's yard. I've done a bunch of work in my backyard. And now I'm dethatching and I'm composting. I'm not leveling, I'm composting my front yard. Because you see, it's scalped and I dethatched there with my dethatching blade. And I also did the aeration blade on it. And I'm adding compost. This is like chicken manure, or chicken manure compost, whatever you call it, steer manure, organic compost and topsoil and some sand. I mixed it all together. And I just basically am, you know, kind of just putting a soil coating on top of my lawn here. And I do have video of it actually coming in, but it's just basically kind of like a leveling of your yard. But the compost, what it's going to do is this is going to put a bunch of micronutrients back into your, you know, microorganisms back into your yard and stuff like that. As I've told you before, I don't use any of the biostimulants. I don't use any of these humic acids or any of these things that help increase the microorganisms, I do this. It works great. Right here, check this out. This guy, he drives up. Let me see if I can.
It was here last week. We took a detour just to see the grass. Good job.
2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Really?
Did you see?
So this guy drives up.
Where?
Let me back up here.
We took a
It was
detour
funny. He drives up while I'm working here.
Beautiful grass.
Where?
It was here last week. We took a detour just to see your grass again.
Oh.
Good
2
job.
weeks, 3 weeks.
Really?
Did you see this? I
No.
did this last week, and it came back so green.
It looks like the golf course out here.
Well, technically, it kind of is.
Yeah, it looks great.
It's fairway grass. It's putting green,
Yeah.
and it's cut really short.
Yeah. So enough of that. I thought so. It was kind of funny because what happened was I'm just out there working, and he started talking to me, and I had my earbuds in, and I can talk to my earbuds and tell it what to do, and start and stop the music and all that. And so I saw him pull up, and so I said, hey, stop. And he was already talking to me, and I didn't hear what he was kind of saying, but what he was saying is that they drive through the neighborhood basically on the weekend just to see my lawn. And I thought that was really cool that he said they actually kind of go out of their way, and they drive on the main road up there, but they'll come down the road and check out my yard. And so what I was telling him is this area back over here, I had composted it last week, and oh my God, it turned so green. It was actually, pretty amazing. And that's kind of one of the things that the composting does. I did add some seed here on top. I'm raking it in, and I'm leveling it and all that. I did all the standard stuff you do when you're doing a leveling of your yard. I just didn't use sand. I used compost. And say what you will about it. Yeah, there's some big chunks and all that kind of stuff, and I'm going to let the seed kind of grow. I rolled it in, and once the seed germinates and grows, I'm going to take my Honda lawnmower and suck up all the bigger particles. I started trying to sift all this compost and dirt, but when I was doing this, I was like, this is going to take way too long. And it had rained the day before. So my compost pile, it wasn't that it was necessarily wet, but it was still damp. And it was really hard to get the dirt to sift through my sifter. So I managed to get some done. I was going to put it on my putting green because it's actually really fine and it's very sifted. But I didn't do it. I may do it at some point. I'm just kind of letting my putting green, get back to and grow its normal here. But so the video's running through again. It was just a really quick video. But you see here, I scalped it to 1.55 or 1.5 millimeters. I'm sorry, this is my Kentucky. I scalped it to 3.5 millimeters. And I normally grow this Kentucky bluegrass at 1/4 of an inch, which is 6.3 millimeters. So it's almost half of what I normally cut it at to what I scalped it to. I didn't want to scalp it too bad, but I was just trying to see where some high and low spots are. And I have a few. I have some back up in here, and I have some down here by the sidewalk, up over in here. And I just kind of wanted to work them out. I'm not really too concerned about them. I know that it's kind of happened from some settling I got when I initially redid the yard last year. Just remember that my Kentucky bluegrass here is only in its second season this year. So I'm actually still working on trying to get it to look good. So basic things here. Dethatched. I mowed it up with my lawnmower. I put the compost down. I put some seed down on top of, or I leveled it. I dragged my leveling rake over it just to kind of smooth out the compost. I put the seed on it, raked it, rolled it, and called it good. And it's only taken a week. Let's see here. I'm going to change this video back to what it was. Let's see, I think this would do it here. So that was the point of this video, which I had in here. I had to name kind of the same thing, and that was my fault in putting them in. But so I did some drone video to show kind of the progression of the sanding of the putting green and also the composting of the front yard here. So this is pretty much just after I had sanded the putting green. You know, I really went to town on that thing when I dethatched it, and I aerated it with the aeration blade. I have my Sun Joe out today here, so I'm going to go ahead and show you that. So I'm pretty sure this is just the weekend after. So here is when I had composted, because this is a part of my grass that I don't really show that much. It's just a side yard by my chimney and all that stuff, and I don't even really take care of it. I barely spray it. But so this is a week later. This is the day I composted the grass. So the putting green's growing in really nice. And like I said, I scalped that down pretty good, and I had dethatched and aerated it with the aeration blade pretty good. So you see here, I really covered this grass with the compost. And what you're going to see over the progression here is how green it ends up turning just from doing that. And I feel like that's the only, you know, nutrients it really needed to kind of give it that extra boost to get it going. I haven't fertilized my front yard, my putting green, since April. I did the video of the comparison when I sprayed it, and it was like mid-April when I did that. It was actually before Easter and before I started my son's project and my neighbor Wilson's project. So I thought I made this go a little faster here, but obviously I didn't. So this is the other morning. Putting green is growing really well. I actually mowed the putting green yesterday. I was debating on whether I wanted to do it or not. And I mowed it at like 3 millimeters. But you can see here, once I turn the camera view around, you're going to notice that, you know, most of the compost is pretty much soaked into below the grass level, and the grass is actually growing really quick. I mowed it too yesterday, against my better judgment, but I did. And then you can see this repair that I did up here. The grass is growing back really well. I hadn't really mowed it until yesterday, but look at how green this grass, and you know, I know there's compost in it and all that kind of stuff, and that's probably helping with a little bit of darkening, but to tell you the truth, if you look at it straight up from the sidewalk and we're in person seeing it, it's really green. So this is only like 4 days after doing the composting. This was last Thursday, and I just, you know, was doing some drone video just to kind of see how it looked and stuff like that. And I've been having a good time playing with my drone video, or my drone. And when I started doing the Mount Rainier video and the video of the sound, or the views and the recording of that, I kind of like that. It was kind of cool going up above the trees. I've had a few accidents with my drone. I'm not a professional. I'm very uncoordinated when it comes to that kind of things. I can't play video games and that sort of stuff. So using the drone, I get confused as which is up, which is down, what's, you know, forward, what's backwards, you know. It is what it is. So that's how that looks. Gonna go back to just show you the progression of Wilson's yard. This is gonna be really quick, but this is what Wilson's yard looked like when we started. It had a really bad grub problem. It was torn up by the birds and the raccoons, and I basically came in and I just sanded it, or not sanded it, but I dethatched it, I aeration bladed it, loosened up the soil, added a bunch of topsoil, reseeded it with this great perennial rye called Mystique from the Seed Boss. And this stuff was great. I wanted to try this stuff, but I'm not really a ryegrass fan. But when I offered to do Wilson his yard, help him out, I told him to get this seed. I said, I think this is going to be a great seed. And I was talking to Wilson, the other day about this, and he was really, really happy with the seed, how it's looking, how it's growing in. I mean, I did this on Good Friday, and this stuff came in, and he's listened to my advice and all that sort of stuff. We're still working on some of the sprinkler issues. I offered to help him. See down here, the water doesn't get down here, so this isn't growing in that well, but I offered to help him put in another line there to kind of get that going. But this is about 4 weeks after. And then just gonna show you some drone video. I mean, look at how super green that is. I didn't put any starter fertilizer. I hadn't fertilized it or anything, and I just fertilized it actually Friday. I put some liquid iron, and I mixed up some urea in that mix as well, which is 4600 all nitrogen. There's Wilson right there walking with the baby. So this is Friday morning. And you can see it's still a little loose. It hasn't quite filled in all the way, but for 7 weeks, this is looking really nice. I really like that grass he's put in there. And that's the one thing about ryegrass. Ryegrass is great. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean that you can't like it. It's a lot easier to maintain. It gets super green, and it will stripe really good because ryegrass is dull on one side of the blade and shiny on the other side of the blade. So it really makes your striping pop if you put like a striping kit on your lawnmower, that sort of thing. But I mean, look at this. This looks really great from the street level. And this was just before he mowed. This was Friday. This is when we were talking. And he was like, yeah, I just mowed the other day, because it was like Tuesday or Wednesday when he mowed. And he was like, I already got to mow again. And I'm like, yeah, this stuff is growing great. So that's Wilson's yard. That's just kind of a little update. That Mystique ryegrass is looking really, really good at 7 weeks. It's filled in really good, and it's going to look good as time goes on. So then the update on my son Justin's yard. This was a whole different project from Wilson. We decided on a Thursday that Saturday we were going to go and do this. We were going to put these sprinklers in and all that stuff. So I offered him to use my seed, which is the Kentucky Bluegrass Fairway Blues. It's actually a fairway grass. And my red creeping fescue, which is my shade mix, which is what he's got here in the back. I mean, if you watch this video in the past, all day long, he's got shade like this. And the issue with both Wilson's project and Justin's project was, it was really nice the weekend we did these jobs, but it got really cold like a week later. I mean, temperatures went back down in the 40s. It was overcast. It was rainy. Highs were in the 50s. It went from a really great growing period to a really terrible growing period. And I thought everybody's grass growth was going to stall. Justin's probably did the most because the cultivars that I used, the Kentucky Bluegrass, man, it is a real slow germinator, and if the conditions aren't right, it's even slower. It's like 21 to 28 days. So I got his yard all done. I got it all seeded. This is a Kentucky Bluegrass in the front and the creeping red fescue in the back. So turned out really good. Here we are. His is a week ahead of Wilson's. This was pretty much like the second week. And, we have the tenacity bleaching right here of these weeds. That's the white. And that's just a good sample of what happens when you use tenacity when you lay down your seed. The grass started growing in pretty good. This is the backyard, the red creeping fescue. This is a trench right here that we dug, so it was all dug out. And this is a Kentucky Bluegrass in the front yard. you know, it started growing in pretty good. This is a week later. Still got some tenacity bleaching going on. And this was a couple weeks after that. Started filling in pretty good. That was like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. And, you know, since then, this is the backyard. And like I said, you know, if it had been really nice and warm, now that the temperatures have gotten a lot warmer out here, these grasses, but both these yards are starting to do really, really good. So here it is, it's filling in. This is pretty much yesterday. The Kentucky bluegrass is filling in pretty good. It's looking pretty nice. That's yesterday. I think the other picture wasn't yesterday, but this is definitely yesterday. This is his backyard yesterday. And this area right here, man, this gets no shade at all, because once the sun comes over from the trees, then it's blocked by the house, and that's kind of struggling. And then this area down in here too, there's a fence right over here, and it is really getting shade hit. So that should all fill in pretty good. I'm going to go over here to I got my Sun Joe. I got my McLane out too, because the guy was asking me a couple of questions about it. So I was just going to shoot a little bit more information on it. And you know, I realized in my video last week, I didn't have very good video of it. My camera wasn't really zoomed in properly. So I brought my Sun Joe out because I just kind of wanted to show a couple of things about the Sun Joe. You know, this is the dethatching blade. And you see it's tines or prongs, whatever you want to call them here. And it's just basically a rake, a rotating rake. And you can get these for your lawnmower too, a dethatching type blade. There's a blade that has little nylon pieces that will go in this lawnmower blade that kind of go in a U shape, and it basically, as your lawnmower spins, these nylon pieces basically rake the ground as it's going around. So that works really, really well. I have a couple batteries here. This Sun Joe, it takes 2 batteries. They go right here. I can't remember. I think the Sun Joe is less than $200. I have an extra set of batteries, so when one set runs out, I have another, waiting. But basically, 2 batteries go in here, and then I have the aeration blade on here. And you see here, it's basically just tines, similar to what a rototiller has. It's just these are just bent just slightly inward, and you use this to really dig up the top layer of the soil when you're using it. Like after you dethatch, you would use this blade here. It thins out. It also provides a good reseeding bed for if you were like doing an overseed or something like that. When I use this, I go up and down and side to side, and it basically will cut little squares into the grass, the dirt, whatever, and it loosens up the top layer. I mean, I use this on setting number 5, which is all the way down, as low as it goes, and it was really cutting into the soil. You could set it higher and just have it cut the top layer of the grass if you wanted to. But technically, this blade is an aeration blade. And I don't know if you guys can see, it's shiny here, so you can see it's been digging into the ground. That's about almost a half of an inch, quarter of an inch at least. And like I said, it's just gonna loosen up the top layer of the soil. So if you're overseeding, when you put seed down, it's gonna fall down into the soil a little bit better. And then you rake it in, and then you roll it, and it's going to help give you that good seed to soil contact that we always talk about, which is the most important thing to any overseeding job. This thing works pretty easily. It's got a button here, it's got a handle. You basically push the button in, pull the handle back, and that's going to start it. It's going to make it start rotating and stuff like that. Because it's battery operated, it just makes it so much easier for when you're out there in your yard. You don't got a big long cord, dragging behind you. You don't have to worry about chopping that thing up and all that. It actually is a really nice thing. And like I said in my last video last week, I've really abused that thing. That dethatching blade, or that aeration blade, it has really taken a beating. And this thing still kicks. I get a good, 45 minutes out of the batteries. I mean, I've really had no problem doing yards and stuff like that multiple times. Wilson's yard, when I did his moss job, I did his front yard as well, which is a lot bigger. And, with both batteries and all that kind of stuff, I was actually able to do like 2 passes on his side yard and 1 complete pass on his front yard, I think maybe 2. And then I had to switch batteries out. I feel that you get pretty good, if you get down to work and you get the stuff done, it really is going to work well. Now, back to my McLane lawnmower here. I think I got a better, looks better on the screen there. So the micro adjustment is right here. This is the main part of being able to adjust the cut of height, the height of cut. And this custom roller right here, I got it at Golf Co. Golf Co. is in Redmond, Washington. It's just Golf and Co. C-O, like golf company, abbreviated, Golf Co. It's in Redmond, Washington. And you can call them up and talk to them about them. Mention that you were looking, you have a McLane, like the guy you did the custom roller for. They know me because I stop by there all the time. They're kind of one of my stops I go to when I'm driving, doing pickups and deliveries and stuff in that area. And that's how I met them and realized what they did. They're really nice guys. It took them a little while to get it done, but it's basically just one of their standard rollers. Their biggest issue was trying to figure out how to convert it from the way McLane did the roller and how they were going to incorporate it with the way they set up their rollers. And realistically, all it is I had to change out the bearings that are in the roller holder down here. It's just a new bearing. They supplied them because this is a standard bearing size, but the bearing diameter is specific to their rollers. So it's realistically, it's just a new bearing in the roller housing right here. There's a new bearing in here, and then there's their axle shaft, and it's just a lock ring that holds it in place. It's not a nut and a washer and all that kind of stuff like the McLane. It actually is just a much better setup. They're greasable, the bearings and all that. So it's a really nice setup. Very durable. It's made of polyurethane, so it's very soft. So it doesn't make all that noise when you're driving over or pushing it over concrete, your sidewalks, your driveway, whatever. Makes hardly any noise at all. It is very soft. It's very durable. There's really no chunks or marks or anything in it. As far as grooving, they do have a flat one that doesn't have grooves. I do notice every now and then, I think probably when the grass is a little longer, it will leave some groove lines in your grass. They're not very noticeable, but I cut my grass so short, it's probably less noticeable. If you were cutting your grass a little higher than what I do, 1/4 of an inch, you might notice it a little bit more. But like I said, you can get a flat roller, and that's 2.5 inches, which is what makes it so I can cut it lower. And that's probably the most key thing too, if you want to get your McLane reel mower to cut lower, is you just need to get a roller with a smaller diameter. 2 7/8 is the stock roller. and this one here is 2.5. I have a 3-inch. A bigger roller is going to make it so you can mow higher than the 3/4 of an inch they claim. I haven't actually really tested how much higher I can go, because 3 inches is only 1/8 of an inch bigger than the stock roller. I don't really mow any grass higher than 3/4 of an inch, and I haven't even used this in my backyard yet. I haven't even put the 3-inch on it since I got these rollers. I was going to do it yesterday, but maybe I'll do it today, because I want to mow my backyard with the real rower. I've only been mowing it with my rotary mower, my Honda. And I stopped my project I was doing in the backyard using a test thing using coffee grinds. I was doing that thing because I read it on my Google feed, but you know what? I don't want to use coffee grinds. I found out coffee grinds is going to lower the pH in the soil, and man, I don't need that. If anything, I need to raise my pH, and that's why I'm using urea. So I actually put my first nitrogen dose on it last week when I did Wilson's yard. I did my backyard as well, because I mixed a big batch of it so I could do both of them. And I put some nitrogen, put some iron down on it. And I know my iron's got some sulfur in it, so that's going to lower the pH. But you know, the urea nitrogen I use, it's going to raise the pH. So I hope they both kind of balance each other out. You know, if you wanted to, you can actually raise the pH of the water in your mixing jug to kind of help as well with raising the pH, you know, lime and all that sort of stuff. Anyways, I'm really monitoring my pH because I'm getting grass to grow in my backyard. In the shaded areas I've had problems, but it's really growing slow. And my new patch areas, I didn't attach any video of that. I should have, but I have some of the backyard. I mean, it's doing pretty good. Would I like it to be doing a little bit better? Yeah, I sure would. This is my putting green. I've showed this video before, but I don't think I linked this video last week, and this was the video I wanted to have linked to talk about. I mean, this is just me doing some putting and stuff. But towards the end, yeah, also it just shows the smoothness and the speed of the putting green. You know, it's really great. 2 millimeter cut. It's really tight. I mean, you should be able to see it here. You can see the way the ball's rolling. I mean, if you've ever been on a golf course, you can kind of tell that, you know, those balls are rolling pretty flat, pretty smooth, and pretty fast. And as the temperatures continue to stay warm out here, I mean, we're finally in the 80s, you know, which is really hot for us. This thing's gonna get faster. So I plan on doing a stemp meter test on it this summer. And this is really quick. When I did my putting green, I used play sand. I put a bunch of it down, a really nice base coat of it. And before I put that down, I had really concentrated on leveling it and rolling it with my roller to kind of get the topsoil layer really compacted. So when I put the sand down and I rolled it, it was going to kind of compact down and everything like that. I put the peat moss on top of it. I planted my seed. I put peat moss on top of the seed. I rolled it really good. And you can see, look at the bent grass just grows like crazy. Both these grasses were planted the same day. And this was just a couple weeks later. And this was like a month after, something like that. This is just kind of showing some of the POA that I got in my yard, which is why I redid my yard. And this is the new Kentucky bluegrass I'd put in. I mean, I had totally redid my yard after redoing it the previous year. And then my putting green, I really wasn't taking care of it very well when I did this reseed here, but this is the Kentucky Blues Fairway Blues. And this was the first mow I did really short. This was after I got my McLane. That was a big problem. My peat moss spreader dumped open, dumped a whole big clump of peat moss down on it. But that's basically last year. This is like, I think this July. This is 3 millimeters right here. That was before I got my new roller. And, you know, the Kentucky bluegrass, it grew in pretty well. This is my putting green issue I had when I expanded it, but I fixed that now. And it's actually looking a lot better. But that was my putting green. It was very simple to do. And the drainage on it is really, really good. I put a really good sand layer down on it. You know, is it the way that a golf course does it? No, not even. Like I said, I just put topsoil down as a base, rolled it and compacted as best I could, leveled it as best I could, and then I put the sand on top of it and rolled it and compacted it as well. I used the Penn Cross bent grass, which is great grass. I'm going to switch back over to my other camera here. You know, I have, I was like, what the heck is going on? I think my gimbal might have frozen on me or died. Yeah, I think this is dead. Anyways, this is bent grass. This I cut all the way down. It used to look like this. I cut it all the way down, and this kind of shows you this has got a really good thatch layer. I planted this last November, and then I don't know if you can see here, but I have the tenacity bleaching from when I had sprayed it. I'm just kind of watching my monitor to see if this gimbal's going to go dead on me again. But look at this. This grows like crazy. Yeah, there it went. Sorry. I could if I put it over here on this screen, it's not going to work because it's green. I probably should have charged my gimbal. So, anyways, yeah. See, look, you can't. Here, I'll put it in front of my shirt. So this is my bent grass. I don't really take care of it. I've been letting it grow. And my main thing was I just wanted to show you it does have the tenacity bleaching on it. Then I also have my Kentucky bluegrass. This one didn't survive. Actually, this is the red fescue, red creeping fescue. This is Kentucky bluegrass. And this one's Kentucky bluegrass. So my thing of showing this was there's no tenacity bleaching on these at all, hardly. There's a little bit here and there, but for the most part, when I sprayed the tenacity on these, they didn't suffer any real damage. And that was what I was talking about last week with tenacity. This is the red creeping fescue. I got some grass seeds going right here. So this one had a little more damage from the tenacity. It's got a little more tenacity bleaching. Actually, no, I think I grabbed the wrong one. I think this is actually bent grass. But this is definitely the red creeping fescue right here, and it's got some tenacity bleaching down in here. It did recover really, really well. So, I put a couple of things in here that I was going to talk about. You know, have you ever wondered when it gets really warm how much water you're losing when you water your lawn? You know, the recommendation is to put like 2.5 inches per week on your lawn. But when it gets really hot, what happens with the heat, the water that you're putting down, all that kind of stuff? How much are you losing? How much is going away? Well, NOAA, what is that, National Ocean and something, I forget. But the NOAA, basically the weather, atmospheric something, whatever. They have this page you can go to on their site is, if you do a Google search for NOAA evapotranspiration, let me go over to this and see if I can. That's the wrong one. Oh, there it is. Oh, I just zoomed it out. So right now I have it pulled of my area. I want to talk about this here in a second, but so it's called evapotranspiration, NOAA evapotranspiration map. And you actually have to go in and you have to set it for total weekly FRET in inches. And there's a little drop down window in this map. When you come to this page, it'll probably pop up with a different map. And all you have to do is go in here and select it down here, total weekly FRET, it's in inches. And what this is doing, this is telling you, they do a calculation based on your temperatures and the heat and the moisture, humidity, all that kind of stuff. And they come up with a number, and they basically are telling you how much evaporation you're going to get from your watering. So did I get this on here? Let's see here. And now I moved everything, so everything's a little out of whack. So this is this week's numbers right here for us. And we're supposed to get 1.46 inches of water evaporation from the heat. We're in the 80s today, I believe. We were about 80 yesterday. There's a little bit of wind and all that. And that's what's they're factoring in here, is all your weather factors. And they come up with a number, and there's a whole map. Let me go back to the page so I can zoom out of here. This is the page of the whole country, and you can go anywhere you want, anywhere you live. You can look at these numbers. I don't even know where I'm looking here. St. Joseph, was that Missouri maybe? And all these numbers are based from their weather stations, their weather reporting stations. So that's where these numbers are coming from, and they're basing them out of is all their weather stations. And of course, in the Midwest and all that stuff, they have a lot more weather stations. And there we go. So no matter where you live, you can put in your zip code too here. I think I just been scrolling in and out of this map here. And I don't know how I got that up there. So anyways, like I said, it's the whole country. And it's called evapotranspiration. And I'll show you again right here. The ET. So in the hot summer months, man, if you want to start keeping track of how much evapotranspiration you're going to be getting in your area, maybe how much extra water you need to be adding, this is a good page to go to. Maybe you've always wondered why your grass is really drying out. Yeah, you probably know it's really hot and stuff like that, but you've been watering and all that sort of stuff. This is going to give you that indication, or that first indication of how much water you're going to be losing out of your soil. So I thought that was some really good information to pass along to people that are really into, keeping their grass watered really well, because water is probably one of the most important things for your grass. I'm sure you guys all realize that. Without water, it's just not going to grow. especially if you have a cool season lawn in a hot area. It's just not going to grow. So we only have a few reporting sites out here in Western Washington. I mean, this is the airport, this is Olympia. I don't know where this is, but this is, out towards the coast. This is probably Port Angeles up here. We've got Mount Etna. I keep clicking on things. Canada. So evapotranspiration. If you want to look into this map, NOAA evapotranspiration, and I'll scroll up so you can see how that's spelled there. It's right here, evapotranspiration. If you just did a Google search on that, it's going to come up as, oh, sorry. There's my Google. I apologize.
On that report, on that suggestion.
I didn't mean to call you. Sorry, ma'am. Let's see if I can go back to my Google search. There it is right there. It was this one right here. National Weather Service, evapotranspiration, water management aid. I basically went into that page there. It brought me over here to this page. And like I said, you need to take care of this drop-down menu right here, because it's going to come up. This one came up as extreme hail probability percent. I mean, here in Western Washington, that is definitely not an issue. But if you scroll down, they actually have a daily FRET. And this is the daily right here. I never checked at this. So you can get a daily and a weekly. Here it is right here. Drop down menu for your map. There's the daily. It's 0.26 inches. And then here's the weekly, 1.46 inches. So I thought that would be really nice for some of you that are really hardcore on your watering schedules and that information there. I have put this other page together, and let me see if I can find the right page here. It is. So I talk about iron a lot because a lot of people talk about iron and they so don't know what they're talking about when they talk. Iron is a very, very complex micronutrient to be putting on your lawn. And I've done a lot of research on iron, and I should have brushed up. It's been a few weeks since I've listened to this podcast that's really doing a deep dive on iron and chelates and all that kind of stuff. And what made me start thinking about that again this week was I watched a guy doing a YouTube video, and he was talking about putting iron on his lawn. And he just thought because the iron product he was using was chelated, that was the important thing. And there's so much about chelation chelated iron that people really just have no clue what they're dealing with. There are different types of chelated products that they use, and I have them listed here. Iron citrate is a chelated form, or I believe these are like these are in foods and all sorts of things. And basically what a chelated product does is it basically protects the iron molecule with a coating, protection coating around it. What it's supposed to do is it's supposed to slow down the oxidation of iron. And if you're using the wrong chelated product, like if your pH in your soil is below 6 and you use, I believe it's EDTA, I have it down here. Yeah, EDTA. It even says in here somewhere. EDTA is basically a chelated form of iron that if your soil pH is above 6, EDTA is not going to work for you. It's basically gonna, I believe, I forget what the term was. I really should have watched that. I really wasn't prepared to talk about that. But what my only point here in talking about chelated iron is there's so many different types. Iron citrate, though, the one thing I wanted to point out about this is it's going to give you a lesser chance of staining. Is it still going to stain concrete and that sort of stuff? Yes. Is it still going to stain your grass? Yes. But it's going to do it in a lesser manner. EDDHA is also another form of chelating that works with high pHs, but it's really costly. It's expensive. I believe, what is that, Formula 6 or I probably should have prepared a lot more for this. Future 6, maybe it's Future 6 or Feature 6. There's an iron product out there that has this. It's a really small bag. It's pretty expensive. You don't use a lot of it though, but this is a really expensive form of chelated iron. But it also is going to lessen the staining on your lawn. And it's going to be more one of those products that it's not going to stain your grass so much, so it's going to have to soak into the soil, and your grass is going to have to uptake it to get that greening effect. It's not going to be like if you use a regular iron like I use ferrous sulfate, and it's also got sulfur in it. And it's going to stain your grass immediately. And a lot of these products that people call the miracle product, oh my God, this product is so great, it cleans my grass up in an hour. They do their little cardboard piece and they spray the lawn, they spray the grass, and they show, oh look, it's so much greener than where I didn't spray, and it's so amazing, and all this kind of stuff. And you know, they don't tell you, or maybe they don't even realize that it's just staining your grass. It hasn't even absorbed into the grass. So that was my only point in bringing up chelated iron, the different types of chelated iron, the pH of your soil, what's going to work, what's not going to work. The basic theory here is if you apply any kind of liquid iron to your grass, it's going to green your grass. It's going to work fine. It's going to be able to get absorbed by your roots and into your turf. But the one big thing I want to point out here, because I also watched another guy who was talking about ironite. Ironite as a granular product, and this is where I come back to why I don't like Scott's and fertilizer companies in general. They basically lie to us. They give us a lot of misinformation, because people think that just because they're putting iron on their lawn that's what's greening their lawn, when it's not. If you use ironite, the iron in ironite by far is not greening your lawn. It's the sulfur. I believe most of the ironite products have like 33% sulfur. And it's the sulfur that's actually greening your lawn, and it takes a little bit of time for that sulfur to get absorbed into the lawn, so it's not going to green your lawn right away. Now, the iron in ironite is going to do something, maybe for moss. Like I treat for moss all the time. That's why I'm a big user of iron. Just keep moss out of my yard. Moss and iron, iron takes care of moss. So the iron that's in ironite, because it does last about an hour before it oxidizes, when you put it on your lawn and there's moss in it, the iron in it is going to affect the moss, because the moss is going to react pretty much immediately to iron being put on it. And so once that iron starts oxidizing out of the product, the granules, it's going to go from affecting your moss to not affecting your moss. And that hour or two period that it's in your lawn is going to affect the moss. So it is going to help with reducing moss in your yard. But it's not going to green your yard. I hate to burst your bubble if you think ironite's the greatest product because it greens your lawn. The sulfur in there's a little bit of nitrogen in ironite as well. those are the two key things that are greening your lawn. And then the other thing to remember about ironite is, because it does have a lot of sulfur, it is going to lower the pH of your soil. Ever so slightly, but if you continually use it, it is something that's going to lower the pH in your soil. And that's just kind of my big key thing talking about iron. There's so much info on iron, and there's so much misinformation about iron out there. And I'm talking from the fertilizer companies directly, that a lot of people think the product they're using is a super great product because it's got iron and it's greening my lawn, and that's not what it is at all. So you could do, I got all these from Google right here. I basically asked Google all of these questions here. I can't say it or else she's going to react. But I said, what is iron citrate? You know, and it gave me this big long thing about it. What is glucoheptanate? You know, and it gave me a big old long thing. What is EDTA? And then you can ask, you know, about iron with EDTA. How does it react? And it actually, I thought I had it on here, but it actually does tell you gives you information on the pH levels. I guess for some reason it didn't come out in my copy and paste, but oh yeah, then here I asked it about the lawn care channels. I copied and pasted this as well, that give misinformation here. And it kind of went on about not really wanting to tell you but I believe in here, yeah, right here. See right here. It says Yard Bra was explicitly mentioned as a channel that puts out terrible and dangerously incorrect information. This guy's a huge YouTuber, you know, and he makes great videos. I got it, you know, he's a video editing guy, you know, but man, his information. I mean, sometimes I just want to jump through the screen and just tell him to stop talking. So I can't do that. But anyways, that was when I did my search. I asked AI about lawn care channels. It also talked about Ryan Knorr and the Lawn Care Nut. Lawn Care Nut, man, that guy, he's a world of information, but he's also a world of bad information, especially when it comes to iron and how to use phosphorus. Anyway, I'll stop talking about that because it'll just get me started. That's really all I got. I mean, I have more. I have my program here set up with all kinds of stuff to talk about. You know, I put stuff in here and I leave it there, and I think, you know, hey, am I going to talk about this? Am I going to have time? You know, I've been talking long enough. I've told you before, I really just like coming on here and doing these videos. It's really fun. I like putting information together. And I'm just really trying to get out real information to new lawn care people who maybe just bought a house, or you just thought about, you know, redoing your yard and all that sort of stuff. You know, one of my biggest questions I get asked from guys that, you know, we talk about, and I say, hey, oh yeah, I have a yard, YouTube channel. Oh, this is my yard. I have pictures of my yard on my watch. And sometimes when I'm at a customer or something like that and we're talking, you know, we'll get into yard care because I always talk about that stuff. Hey, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm working in the yard. Oh, how's your yard look? And, you know, I'll get into this whole conversation with them. And the biggest question I get is, you know, my yard is just a mess. I don't even know where to start with it. I don't even know what to do with it. And I just tell them, you know, hey, the best thing you can do for your yard if you want to start taking care of it is get a bottle of lawn weed killer. Get the one that goes on your hose end spray. You know, it's a hose end sprayer. Just put it on your hose and spray your lawn with that. You know, do a weed and feed type. You know, use liquid. Liquid's the best way to apply any kind of weed killer or fertilizer on your yard. you know, I used to be all granular, and I've really changed to liquids as much as possible. And I just tell them, I just say, do that. Just go buy a $10 bottle of hose and sprayer, weed and feed. It's going to, you know, get rid of the weeds. It's going to start killing the weeds, start taking care of all that. And then, you know, when the fall comes, you can start thinking about overseeding. You can maybe do a little bit of research into some seeds and that sort of thing. And I say, don't buy seeds at the big box store. You know, go online, do some research, buy from some real seed companies. You're going to find you're probably going to spend less money for a higher quality seed that's going to have less weeds in it, and you're going to get a good cultivar. Seed Boss, I've talked about that guy. He's got great seeds. My seed company, which I always forget the name of for some reason, let me cross over here to my, I have it saved on my bookmarks, of course. I don't know why I forget their name. Oh man, I don't even know why I can't even bring up the. I don't even know why I can't even bring up a bookmark right now. What's going on? Anyways, it's not important. There's lots of great seed companies out there. Do some research. There's a lot of companies that specialize in grass seeds. I looked into the company that I use because, let me see, actually I probably have that. Arrow. Of course, it's Arrow Seeds. Arrow Seeds is the company I use. Arrow Seeds is in Nebraska. They're really great people. They supply big fields, golf courses, you know, stadiums, that sort of stuff with grass seed. That's where I got the Kentucky bluegrass that's right there. It's called Fairway Blues. It's an actual golf course fairway type grass. I cut it at 1/4 inch. It's really great stuff. I believe it's only $65 for a 10-pound bag. And that's a pretty good price. Wilson used the Seed Boss and perennial ryegrass, $70 for 10 pounds. That's a local guy of Washington as well, the Seed Boss. That's a great product. He's also got a bunch of other types of grass seed available that he's able to offer. Podium is one of his new big ones. It's supposed to be even better than Mystique. He just planted it in his yard. The Seed Boss, he's got a YouTube channel called The Lawn Care Minimalist. He's got great info. He keeps it short, unlike me, and he will show you his grass types that he has, how they do in his yard. And he also is a believer in less is more when it comes to fertilization. So I would say check him out if you want to see some more information on seeds and types of seeds. But you know, that's what I have for today. We could talk more about starting your yard and redoing your yard if it looks really terrible in another video. It is pretty simple. But right now we're getting into the time of year where it's really just not the time of year to do any kind of reseeding or yard overhaul. It's getting too hot for cool season grasses. So spring and fall are the best times for that. So if you want to start doing that, you want to get your yard looking great, start thinking about September and start looking into what you need to do, what kind of things are wrong with your yard and what direction you want to go with it and what types of grass you want to put in. There's lots of types. Do you have shade? Do you not have shade? Direct sun? No direct sun? You know, all those sorts of questions are very important when it comes to getting a good quality seed, and that's going to work good in your yard. So we can talk more about that next time. Until then, I really appreciate you guys for tuning in. For those of you that do, if you're watching this after, you know, hey, great, thanks. You know, like and comment. would be great to help get some of my information out. Like I said, I do lots of research on the information that I put out, trying to put out real accurate information. I'm not just trying to throw out a bunch of stuff and tell you what to do and not tell you the consequences of doing it, like a lot of lawn care channels do. You need to know what you're putting down, why you're putting down what you're putting down, and is it really affecting your lawn? Is it doing anything really good for your lawn, or are you just wasting your money? Those are the only things I'm looking at. But thank you very much. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you next week. And I'll put together another great lawn care video, because that's what I do. Sorry, that was sarcasm.